I'm joined now by Senator Adam Schiff, the senator from my home state of California. Thanks so much for taking the time.
It's great to be with you. Good to see you.
So I want to start off with a specific instance of something that Elon tweeted about you and then kind of expand 30,000-foot view into why it's so important. But first off, Elon took to Twitter and wrote, "Did Adam Schiff commit treason? Sounds like he did." And so first off, can I have your reaction to Elon basically using his newfound power as this co-president, shadow president, to basically focus on political retribution against Donald Trump's enemies?
This is a recurrent pattern with Elon Musk. He goes after people, frankly, that he thinks are effectively pushing back. So he accuses me of treason. He calls me a criminal, etc. to his, I don't know how many millions of followers. I respond to him, as I did today, by saying, no, but you're working with a guy who just betrayed Ukraine. You're working with a guy who just sucked up to Vladimir Putin. You're going to have to, atone for your involvement with that guy. But this is what he does. He pushes out these dangerous falsehoods online to all of his followers. He essentially does the dirty work for Donald Trump.
More broadly speaking, we've seen numerous instances where not just Elon Musk, but people who actually have law enforcement power, folks like the U.S. Attorney Ed Martin, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, have used their new positions to go after Democrats. And so, in an era where we were promised this focus on law and order, to instead see all of these people who actually have some power to figure out where we want to drive our resources, the fact that they're going after Democrats like you, what does that say?
This is really a lawless administration. As we're sitting here today in the Capitol waiting for this joint session of Congress, there are people who are going to be wandering around this building who were on January 6th attacking police officers in this building, violent criminals who were given a pardon by Donald Trump, showing up at the scene of the crime. What they're using the Justice Department for right now, it's not to protect people from fentanyl. It's not to improve public safety. No, they're trying to, in Manhattan, dismiss corruption cases against the Manhattan mayor because they want his help on immigration. They're dismissing it without prejudice so they can keep that hanging over his head in case he gets an inch out of line. They can let that sword of Damocles down on him. They're going after Democratic elected officials and threatening investigations and prosecutions over what they say. So this group that says they're fighting censorship is doing their best to censor people. And sadly, Brian, it's working. You see major newspapers like the Washington Post self-censor, the LA Times self-censor, unwilling to issue editorial opinions, falling into line with the Trump administration, things I never thought we would see in this country, but we're seeing. And among the most dangerous is what you point out, and that is the abuse of the entire justice system.
Do you have any concern for yourself and your colleagues who, by the way, should be protected, are protected under speech or debate in the Constitution, and yet that hasn't stopped this administration from still focusing its ire on you anyway?
You'd be crazy not to have concerns about it. Both Trump in his first iteration as president attacked me, accused me of treason, said there used to be a way of dealing with traitors. Now what Elon Musk is doing, that stuff reaches people who are unwell out there, but they could care less. So yes, we have to be concerned about personal safety. And yes, we have to be concerned about abuses of the Justice Department because we're seeing them in real time. But nevertheless, none of us are going to stand down. I'm standing my ground. I want to push back against this lawless administration. I'm going to represent the constituents of California and around the country who are dedicated to the rule of law, whether it's attacks on the rule of law at home or betraying our allies like Ukraine abroad.
As we await now Donald Trump to do his joint address to both houses of Congress, what do you anticipate he'll be talking about, and what should Americans actually be focused on as they listen to him speak?
I think Americans should get ready to be gaslit more than we've ever seen. He's going to come before the Congress. He's going to say, everything is going great. I know you're seeing prices at the grocery store. Don't believe your lying eyes. I'm telling you prices have gone down, even though everybody's saying prices are going up hand over fist. He's going to tell us that he's standing up against Russia and being strong when he's being weak. There's been celebrating going on in Moscow. So he's going to tell us not to believe our lying eyes. He's going to tell us that things are going great. when they're firing people who are trying to stop Ebola from spreading, they're firing people who are trying to stop bird flu from spreading, and then trying to rehire them back when they realize they're making things so much worse. But we can expect to hear a presentation tonight like we're living in some other planet. And you'll have Republicans standing up and applauding what they know to be nonsense.
To that point, he did sweep into office amid these promises to finally focus on the little guy, the forgotten person. And yet now what we've seen the economy falter. We've seen it with this imposition of these misguided tariffs. We've seen the stock market begin to crash as it heads toward correction territory. We've seen Medicaid recipients now get on the chopping block as this budget resolution passed, seeks to strip $880 billion from from the committee that oversees it. And of course, there's no way mathematically to do that without actually stripping that money away from Medicaid. Same deal with food stamps. If you want to take $230 billion from the Agriculture Committee, only one place to find it, and that's going to be with food stamps. And so what do you say to the folks out there who were promised one thing, and yet now, when Trump actually has the opportunity to exercise some power and guide the country with his own agenda, what we're seeing is just regular folks get even more forgotten than they were before?
This is exactly right. We're seeing a replay of what we saw in Trump Part 1, except much worse. That is, he ran for president back in 2016, saying that he wasn't going to forget the forgotten people. He was going to be their champion. He was going to drain the swamp. And what did he do? He gave a tax cut to the richest people in the country and large corporations. Didn't do anything to improve the lot of ordinary, average American families. Now in the second iteration, it's even worse. They want to extend these tax cuts and come up with new ones to make Elon Musk even richer. They want to take the money out of nutrition programs. They want to take the money out of healthcare. 1/3 of the people they're firing right now are veterans. So Donald Trump's going to come in there and say he's, the most pro-veteran president in history. But the facts are different. The facts are he's number one when it comes to firing veterans. And it's going to catch up with him. I think it is already. People are starting to rebel against this attack on working families. And veterans, I think, are quite apoplectic about what he's doing to undermine NATO, undermine our allies, and all of those that are still in the party of Reagan or want to be in the party of Reagan, I think are aghast at how he is just capitulating to the Kremlin.
What do you make of the fact that the NRCC is now letting Republicans know that they should probably avoid doing any town halls because, God forbid, you actually face the voters who elected you into office?
Well, I think it's very telling because Republicans are going home and they're hearing from their constituents, and it ain't good for them because they're hearing from ordinary people who are affected. They're seeing their services threatened. I was in California over the weekend in San Diego meeting with people in the business community. A lot of them do work in science and in finding new cures. And they're telling me that cancer trials are going to get canceled. Some may get stopped in mid-trial. Can you imagine you're in a trial, you have a life-threatening illness, this is your only hope, and your trial is going to get canceled because Elon Musk and a bunch of his 20-something bros are shutting everything down for a tax cut for their wealthy friends. I think this is what Republicans don't want to face back home.
Is it not lost on these folks that even when they're trying to cut funding for clean water, for HIV prevention, for food, for education, for cancer research, for example, that at the same time, we're also seeing a lot of this money get filtered back into contracts that, surprise, surprise, Elon Musk himself benefits from?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. The conflicts of interest are just dramatic. There's Elon Musk firing people at the FAA who handle navigation and landing and radar. He's firing these people at the FAA with one hand. With the other hand, he's inserting himself into a major FAA contract to take over some of the space navigation services with one of his companies. I wrote to the head of the Office of Government Ethics asking about these conflicts of interest because it's a violation of the criminal law, 18 U.S.C. Section 208, to, as a federal employee, even as a special one that he's designated to be, to participate in decisions affecting your own economic interests. And Musk is doing it every day. But before I could get a reply from the head of Office of Government Ethics, they fired him. So they've done away with him. They've done away with the inspector generals. Basically, the corruption is rampant and going to get far worse.
Okay, so I want to dig into that for just a quick beat, because now you have an opportunity where this can actually move forward as some piece of litigation. Is that going to move forward, knowing full well that, okay, now there's no inspector general who can litigate this issue, but there are the courts?
There are, and there's a great organization, Democracy Forward, that is leading a lot of the litigation. We're using a multi-part strategy to push back on all the damaging stuff that Trump is doing. Litigation is a key component, and we're having a lot of success in the court. Now, that success is tempered by the fact that in many instances, now we are seeing the Trump administration ignore court orders and try to obfuscate what they're doing. They're ordered to unfreeze frozen funds. So they're telling the court, we're going to unfreeze them, but then they're not unfreezing them. And so we don't have a situation where you can win a lawsuit and you're one and done. We're going to need to continue litigating. We're going to continue investigating. We're going to continue aggressive oversight. We're going to push back in the legislative process. We're pushing back through our communications. And thank you for the incredible work you're doing to get the facts out there to the American people.
And finally, if those who are watching right now were to engage in a drinking game tonight, where they would take a shot every time Trump said something, what would get them the most drunk?
Probably great. The word great.
Great.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
We'll do a ticker at the end of this.
Well, he's going to say this is great and that's great and this is the greatest ever and we're making this great again and that great again. When frankly, the only thing they made great again is Putin. They've made egg prices great again, if you like high egg prices.
And Elon's wallet.
And Elon's wallet. They are sadly making measles great again too. But these are not the kind of things that define a great country.
Senator Schiff, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you.